The department says there are no quotas.
Well, I can tell you there are quotas in the NYPD.
Truly explosive allegations.
They're coming from police officers who are part of what's being called the NYPD 12, who filed a class action lawsuit in federal court.
This is not just another lawsuit. 12 cops willing to step up like this, because you're not going to get this again for 100 years.
Hold it for 1 quick second. Now, to record.
From the beginning, I saw how this job was. It was not about helping people, it's about numbers.
Who's targeted most? The minority community.
Boom. And all this got dismissed.
All this got dismissed.
Once you start getting arrested, it goes in your record. They taking away jobs that they could be future lawyers, future cops.
Supervisors that are using police officers as a revenue-producing agent for the city.
This system has to change.
We all put our jobs on the line. We put everything on the line.
This is something that was placed on my desk.
You're still a police officer. And there are people in our community that don't work with police officers, period.
This is David versus Goliath. Without public support, we're nothing.
How long do you think you're going to keep the powder keg cap on?
I believe in struggle, and with struggle comes change.
Can the NYPD be what cops are supposed to be?
Well, good evening again, everyone. I think this film really left everyone thinking, right? Well, I'm here sitting with two very brave men. Very brave. But this film has received many awards already. You know, it received an Emmy, even in Sundance Festival. I received the Social Impact Award. I received award for being also, like I said, too brave, because you have to understand how not only the police department, but in any organization that you work, there is certain system you're gonna have. I mean, even professor in university, you know, to get tenure. Right now we have a professor, they have not received tenure in Harvard after 20 years working in Harvard, right? A Latina. So this is the kind of the situation that we live day to day. First, I want to congratulate you, congratulate the making of the film, because you see what it takes to do a film. And then to do a film of this kind is even more difficult. Not so much maybe of the money that is invested or the equipment, but it's also you are dealing with real life stories. You are dealing with situations that happen to us, you know, all the time. So this is really, really critical. So I'm going to, yes. I know that one of the things that my friend Manny usually said, the best thing that happened to him is that he left the police department. But I also want to really, really thank Alba Campuzano Baez, who's the mother of Ritchie Baez, because she's the first one who told me about the film. She's a producer here at MNN, and she mentioned to me, oh, my son is in a film. It's about what's going on in the police department. And I was, oh, of course. We definitely do have him and everybody else here. So I want to introduce both Ritchie Baez and then Manuel Gomez. And we want to hear from you your impression about the film. They are here to answer your questions. And I think it's, like you said, you know, we want to hear your impression. I want to hear a little bit about, from both of you, a little bit more.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for all of you for coming and spending the time tonight with me. I know you can be doing other things. I want to thank you for taking this important moment to watch such a film, which is so impacting. Again, thank you for that. And this film doesn't just show the quota system, it really identifies a systemic problem which we all face. And it's not just a New York City problem, it's a national problem. And there's so many different levels that are involved in this film. But again, I want to thank you because you taking the time out here to come here is important, because we need to bring about awareness, and not only about the awareness, but about the actions that we're taking to correct the injustices that you just saw. So on that note, I'm going to pass the mic over to my brother from another mother.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, and I also like to thank my Lord and Savior Christ for giving us the strength to stand up to this monster that we standing up against and that we fighting day in, day out. And like what my brother Manny said, there's so many levels to this, and the human and emotional toll that's taken not only on us, but everybody else that's going through this in this city and around the world. Because people have to understand the stop and frisk system that we have in New York City is going on in Ferguson, Missouri, is going in Toronto, Canada, and it's going on in UK, where there's black and brown people living. So basically, and even in Australia is going there. So this system is not unique to New York City. It's all over the world, because what New York City is known as, the Empire State, the financial capital of the world. So everybody mimics what's going on in New York City.
You know, I want to say to you that, in this program, you see about quotas. Now, if you notice in the film, there was a section there where one of the police chiefs says that there is no more quotas. Well, that's a lie. What they've called it now is called performance objectives. So any one of you can go online and go onto the NYPD patrol guide and see that there is a procedure there for performance objectives. And how can I prove that there's still a quota system? Because each police precinct has to bring in a certain amount of summonses for their performance objectives every month. And it's almost the same number across the entire city. Now, before, when I first started speaking to you, I said to you that this is a systemic problem. And in this film, it not only addresses the corruption of the quota system, but my part addresses the corruption of the prosecutors. Now, the biggest criminals we have in New York State are not the guys in the streets, are not the guys who are making crimes and robbing, but are the prosecutors and ADAs that hold back evidence and keep kids like Pedro Hernandez in jail and falsify cases and have immunity for that. This is not the America that I swore an oath to. This is not what this country is supposed to be based on. And unfortunately, this is a sad reality that goes on. And in this film, you see that we not only address the issue of quotas and prosecutorial misconduct, as you see in the Pedro Hernandez case, but we also give something that nobody else gives, and that's a solution. So there's currently a bill right now that my brother Ritchie and us are all backing, which is called the Department of Civilian Justice. And it just got introduced on February 20th, 2019. And it's a bill that's going to bring oversight over all the prosecutors statewide, and over all the police departments statewide, and over all the Department of Corrections statewide, so we can have a mechanism to ensure that no prosecutor is going to be able to hold back evidence or lie or put someone in jail. Like you saw that movie, Now You See Us? Did you see that movie? There was one thing you didn't realize. The prosecutor falsified the case. The police detective falsified the case against those kids. Guess who paid for it? All of you. You paid $40 million. Now, could those kids, do they deserve that money? Absolutely. But you paid that money. What happened to the prosecutor? Nothing. What happened to the detective? Nothing. This is the type of corruption that we can't continue to accept.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Can the kid sue
for her?
the system
Yeah, she can hear her.
for being taken, like they took a year of his life?
Yeah, he's suing the system.
Oh, he is.
Not only did they take a year from his life, but he was going to kill himself in jail. And I actually talked to him multiple times, and I went to jail at least 40 times, convincing him to go to school, to volunteer. But he did something that I never thought would happen. He studied so hard that he won a 4-year college scholarship in jail. Not only did he win a college scholarship, but the kid won awards from the Board of Ed in jail. And I didn't prove him innocent on 1 case. I didn't prove him innocent on 2 cases. I proved him innocent on 7 cases. I proved that a Bronx ADA, David Slott, the guy with the man bun you see in there, okay, he falsified 50 cases using 1 witness. And what happened to him? You know what they did? They transferred him to the appeals section. They didn't fire him. Do you see the system we're under? We have a white cop right now who kicked down a black woman's door and called her a nigger, and she was drunk. He was drunk at a bachelor party. He pleaded guilty. Did 15 days in jail. Guess what's happening with him now? Nothing. He's in the police department being paid as a cop on modified duty. Am I correct, Ritchie?
Yeah.
How is this possible? You tell me.
Does he have?
1 second, please. 1 second. 1 second.
No, it's
for your
supposed to be-
questions.
The record was dismissed.
Oh, okay.
The case was dismissed.
It was dismissed.
Yeah, so he has a dismissal for life, but he doesn't have a record, no. But the point is, how do you give a human being back a year of their life?
But when he goes out looking for work,
He's
and
in
he
school
has-
right now, he's in college.
but later on, does he have to say that he?
He'll
he
have
was
to
in
say
jail?
there's a dismissal, yes. Yes, and he'll have
But
to.
that's going to work against him.
But
in the
that's
long
why
run.
that's why I'm writing legislation to prove that.
Okay.
And it's called the Department of Civilian Justice and the Clear Good Name Act. You can look it up.
Okay,
Can I
thanks.
speak to that woman there first, and I'll get you?
Hi. Oh, thank you. It was great. Can you talk about more that legislation and who's going to introduce, who's going to sponsor, how can we support?
Yes, thank you for saying that. At the end of this meeting, if you can, I'll give you a business card. You can download it off the website, Black Ops Pride Investigators, which is my company, and it's on a PDF on there. Okay, again, that's Black Ops Pride Investigators, and I'll give you the business card showing all that. The person that introduced it was Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez from the Bronx. And she's brand new, first Colombian Assemblywoman. Ooh, thank God for that. And she's breaking ground. And I went to her and I told her we need this bill. And I showed it to her. Now the guy who co-wrote the bill with me and collaborated with me was a guy named Frank Serpico. Now I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Serpico with Al Pacino, but he collaborated on the bill with me. And this bill, like I said, is gonna this bill's gonna do one thing. You know what it's gonna do? It's going to take away my job. Because you know what it's going to give? It's going to give the poor Spanish mother, black mother, white mother, Jewish mother, Italian mother, Greek mother, the ability to go to an agency to report that prosecutor, that cop, that correction officer for corruption. And it's going to do something else even more important, and this is the Frank Serpico part. It's going to give this cop the chance to report corruption in his command and get a fair hearing. Right now, we can't have a prosecutor's office check itself, correct itself, monitor itself, and punish itself. You can't have a police department do that either. You can't have a Department of Corrections do that. So if you want to support this bill, I need you to reach out to your to your Assembly and State Senate and let them know. Ritchie and I, we've been going around the states, and so far, we've got it now in 5 states to adopt my bill. I got 45 more states to go. All right? And we're going to make this happen. See, people don't understand something. You don't need to be a lawyer to write the law. You know how many prosecutors and lawyers don't write the law? 98% of them. Do you know who writes the law? Pissed off Americans who know how to do it. Well, guess what? I'm a pissed off American. And guess what I did? I went to the New York Public Library on 42nd Street, the Ghostbusters Library, right? And I got thrown out of the library 20 times. You know why? Because I sat there reading for 3 months, and security would say, it's time to go. Get a life, go home. And after 3 months of reading in that library, I was able to write that bill. And then I went to my brother over here and said, will you back it? And he did. And now I've got New Mexico, Georgia, Connecticut, Louisiana, and now Virginia looking into it, and now New York. So again, and I just recently got the NAACP to back us. So it's going forward. I'm sorry, next question.
Just a terrific film, really captivating and obviously important. Just a quick question for Mr. Gomez and Mr. Torres. Mr. Gomez, with the bill, will it also address the prosecutors' tactics in terms of delaying trials? They often do that to force a person who's standing trial to obviously plea
Absolutely.
and even deny their innocence.
Well, right now, they have immunity for so much stuff. They get away with it. And I mean, I've seen prosecutors lie, as in this case. The guy lied and said, you know, Pedro did this and that, and kept on. They've arrested the kid a total of 9 times. I've represented him 7 times. And they've not found him guilty in any of them. Okay? And yes, to answer your question is, this bill will provide a mechanism for someone like you, or her, or any nationality to go in there and not have to pay a private investigator like me to go get you a fair investigation. It will be run by investigators who are not former cops and lawyers who are not prosecutors. Because I can't have them because they have this good old boy club. And that goes for the cops and the correction officers. You know, because of this film, my picture, and Ritchie will tell you, am I right? It was sent out to 36,000 cops. And the police commissioner said, stay away from this guy. Now, the last guy they did that to was called Al Capone and Lucky Luciano. Okay? But that's okay. When I got 36,000 cops scared to talk to me, all right? I think that's pretty cool. Because you know what? I'm still doing my job. And Ritchie will tell you, is that not right? How do they send it out?
Yeah, they send it out to an email. And like in certain offices, they have his picture prominently placed as soon as you walk inside the office, not to speak to him.
But I don't need it.
I just had one last quick question for Mr. Ritchie Torres. There was that quick
Ritchie Baez.
Ritchie Baez, sorry, Ritchie Baez.
Ritchie Torres, yes, councilman.
Yeah, councilman, sorry. Mr. Baez, the scene where you're with the activists, they said, hey, we can't bring people to the table. That scene really hit me hard because I know a couple activists in the Bronx, and I guess since the film has come out, Mr. Baez, how has it been, I guess, connecting with activists and more people? Because obviously you're one of the good cops, you're able to connect with people in the community, but how are you, I guess since the conclusion of the film, been able to connect with activists to broaden that reach?
Well, I'd like to give special thanks to Tamika and the Gathering, the Justice League. I mean, they took a lot of heat for backing us. You know, they was receiving death threats while you're working with the pigs, while you're working with the opposition. So I'd like to thank them a lot for that. So right now, my focus is working with the youth. Like I'm working with the NAACP Queens chapter and educating them about law enforcement and also trying to bring this film to many young people as we possibly can and build up a grassroots movement because like in the Bible it says, the young, they have the strength. The elders, they have the experience and wisdom. The combination of both of them is gonna make a great change. And yeah, it did hit me hard when I heard that. And not too long after that, we went to another screening and one activist said this, you know, we respect what you guys did. We never thought cops would be brave enough to do what you guys did. But how can we invite someone that works with the beast into the Maroon Village? Basically, she said she can't trust us. And some of these groups, not all, but some, they have an agenda. And the agenda is to divide and conquer. So they say they bring somebody like me, or Manny, or Edwin, or Pedro, or Derek into the fold. They're going to lose their financial backing. Because all these people, somebody's paying them to act a certain way. Because we out here exposing something that's never been exposed. Everybody had an inkling, but we give you unbiased access to what we see and do every day. And we can educate you far more than the BS that any of these chiefs that come on TV and say, oh, we're doing this and this. I can tell you it's all BS. And I can tell you why it's BS, because what's going on behind closed doors. Because right now, Edwin being a lieutenant, we have something called ComStat. Edwin been a lieutenant for a year. He has not gone to one ComStat meeting, and that's unheard of. Why? Because they don't want him to see what's actually going on behind closed doors.
The ComStat, just to let you know, is ComStat is when the police department reports the numbers of how many arrests and how many summonses were generated and all that stuff. So they don't want him to have access to that, okay? Just to let you know, he did get a sergeant, now he's lieutenant, and he's taking the captain's exam, and he will be a captain. But that's the highest he can go, unless you are politically kissing someone's shoes. There's no way he's gonna go higher. We hope for that he will, you know, so God willing. The lady had a question?
Yeah, we have, yeah. Now, I also want to say that it's important for people of color, young people to become police officer. You know, for Latinos, African Americans, it is important because we need also our people to know the system. We know our people to be there. It is important in our community. So, and also, it is important that they live in our neighborhood, because when the police officers live in our neighborhood, they also know the people in the neighborhood and they know what's going on. I remember there was a time where a lot of the police officers used to live in Long Island and come to Manhattan, the Bronx. They will go home, they come to work. They never got to see the neighborhood. But I remember during David Dinkins' term that we had community cop. That was really, you saw the difference in the neighborhood when the police officer knew the people who lived there. So that's critical. We have Maria Luna in the back.
Hi, thank you so
Then
much.
we're gonna go to,
I have many questions. Let me just say to the officers, you're still officers, right? Are you active officers, both of you? I am the president of the Police Community Council of the 33rd Police on Upper Manhattan in Washington Heights. So I'm very much involved with the police. Also, I'm a child of a police officer. We are both, our father reached a high position in the police department. Not here in this country, but in the Dominican Republic, although they did have a very good relationship on the education. What would you say to the 400 just sworn-in officers about 2 or 3 days ago? 400 they were, they came into the force. What would you say to these young people? To do and to look forward to, because I think they're looking for security, a job that they can do something for their community, not just for themselves. So how would you address this particular issue to those young people that are coming into the force?
I would say to them one sentence, and one sentence alone, and that is, don't go along to get along. Now, what do I mean by that? If you see somebody doing something wrong, stop it, no matter what rank they are. If you see a wrong and injustice, don't do it. Be above reproach. The problem is, and I like to quote Serpico on this, 20% of our cops are corrupt. That's a fact. 80% want to do good. Let me say that again. 80% want to do good. But how are you doing good if you see a cop getting punished for wearing a cap and you don't back him up and do something about it? That sergeant that punished that cop on the film, do you know he made lieutenant, committed a crime, and then got re-demoted to sergeant? This is the corruption that we're fighting. And I'm not against cops. What I'm against is corruption. I'm not against DAs. I'm against corrupt DAs. I'm not against corrections. I'm against corruption. And that's the problem. Now you, as the president of the 33rd, you've seen that stuff.
Well, I don't see the 20% that you are considering. I am, I think that
You
you're
read
going
about
a little.
it.
No, I mean, I don't want to read about it. I can read the New York Times, the Daily News, and the El Diario La Prensa, and I can make my out, But the facts are that you are quoting a very high number of corruption. Now you are on this particular picture, films, you are addressing two issues. Problems within the police department and problems with the judicial system.
That's right.
And those are two things that are not going to be working together no matter what we say, because the judicial system has their own laws to follow, and the police is a job. It's a job, it's something that an institution that we, the civilians, we try to see the positives as opposed to the negatives. That was my questions about the 400 young officers that I just came into, and when they see this type of, have to make them think about why did I get into this thing and what am I going to get out of that system. So that is a little thing that I'm a little concerned about.
Yeah. Let me respond to that part about the separation between the judicial and the enforcement. They're one and the same. You know why? Because with the corrupt system, which we call the quota system, is creating a pipeline to basically fund the DAs and the prosecutors to be working. Where they tell the rookies as soon as they come for those 2 years probation, make your numbers, or we're going to extend your probation. If you don't get your numbers and we extend your probation, we're going to fire you. That's the corruption. So now you're making your numbers, you're making your arrests. Now you're sending them to whatever borough you work in, the 3-3, you send them to Central Booking, downtown Manhattan. They get booked. They go see the DA and the judge. They intertwine with each other. It's not separate. They intertwine. So the reason you need it, they intertwine because it's a corporation. And when you have a corporation, you have stockholders. And these stockholders need to make money. And the only way you can have money, you have to have a quota system, because the profits and revenue has to stay high. So that's why they intertwine and they work with each other. I know with a community council, when you speak to the commanding officer, they give you a song and dance. They say the right things, and it sounds amazing. I tell you, when I went to a tenant association meeting years back, there was a recent shooting in the building I live, and the captain there was saying, "Oh, we're doing a lot. We got 10,000 arrests, the most in any city." And it sounded very good. Vanessa Gibson was over there. She liked what he said. But I used to work in Central Booking. Yeah, I know those 10,000 arrests they was bringing. They was bringing 20 or 30 kids, 16 to 20 years old, 16 to 18 years old, that was just hanging out in the buildings for criminal trespass. 80% of that. Then the other percentage would be marijuana, 1 or 2 bags, which right now is practically legal. But back then, that was the bread and butter for narcotics, you know? So they don't tell you that. And then they won't tell you how many of those arrests were, prosecuted and dismissed. They won't tell you that. So if I was a community council and had this knowledge, I can question them and call them on their BS.
No problem. Thank you.
Hi. Powerful, powerful film. I love the fact that you were actually on the journey with each of the characters that were in this film, including both of you here, just getting an intimate look at how you navigated through this entire thing. My name is Veronica Kidd. I'm the founder of the People's Film Festival. I'm also an M&M producer and everything like that. So I love film, and I love this film. One of the things I would like to talk about, that intimacy for both of you. It has to be liberating and yet cathartic as well. What you do, the fact that you are putting your lives once again on the line, and it's not just the community and all of the vices that are going on out there, but it's your own home, where you work at, that infrastructure. You're no longer there with the police department, but yet here you are fighting for justice, power. Talk about that. I'm so concerned about how are you dealing with this? Are you in fear at times, or, that, just talk about that.
Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, I'm a retired United States Army officer. I was a military intelligence officer. did 23 years, and now I'm in the retired reserves. I was in the 18th Airborne, and I also worked out of the 7 Special Forces. So there's nothing that this city, thank you. I fought in Desert Storm, and I fought in Afghanistan 4 times. And I also worked for the Department of State. So there's nothing these prosecutors, governor, mayor, city, or police department can do to me that's gonna make me shake or quiver. The only thing that'll make me shake and turn my head will be a brunette with red lipstick. Other than that, it ain't gonna be nothing else. Right, so they don't put fear into me. But has my life been on trend? Yes. Is my life constantly in danger? Yes. But I volunteer for that every day. You know why? Because I have a son of color. And my son told me, Dad, I got stopped while walking while being black. You know what I told him? Don't worry. Daddy's going to write the law. And I'm going to change that. And I'm going to show you can do that. Because it's a very powerful thing that people don't realize. America has a lot of problems. But you know what? One of the greatest things about this country that I learned to love, we are the most litigious country, God bless you, the most litigious country in the world. That means we have the most laws on the books to protect your rights. And there's one, my favorite amendment of the United States Constitution is the First Amendment. And you know what it is? And I'll teach it to you in one word, RASPP. Freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. But here's the last P that everybody forgets, which makes America beautiful. Freedom to petition the government to correct grievances. Now let me say that real simple. That means to write a bill. That means she can write a bill, you can write a bill, he can write a bill, you can write a bill, and go to the government and stop those DAs or those chief of police from doing their injustices. That's what makes America beautiful. The problem with our society is now, we're not doing that. We're waiting for the Councilman Torreses or the Ocasios and stuff to do that. We need to take charge and do that. We need to vote. That's right. But you want to know something? You know what's beautiful about America? It just takes one pissed off American to make a difference. Man or woman.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here.
First, I'd like to say, the officer with the dreads, the dark-skinned one.
Edwin Raymond.
Is he single? That's the first thing I want to ask.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Well, we got to get his number. That's the first thing I want to say.
I'm going to give it to you.
Let's put that out there. Okay. Number 2, Mr. Gomez. First time I saw you.
Please.
Manuel. First time I saw you was on Jim's show, Flipping Channels. I saw you.
Really?
And
Thank you.
The bill you want to pass and so forth. And as unbelievable as everything sounds, as because we want to believe it, we want to have hope that humanity can exist in the police department, that you people can actually do something like this and actually be telling the truth. Those of us who have a heart, we believe you. I'd like to say that the police department, irrespective to what anyone says, we love cops. Can I get an amen from the audience? I'm not saying this to be a liar, because I try to speak as concise as I can. I'm saying it because I feel it. I'm saying it because I feel it. I remember my mother told me years ago, she took my brother to the hospital one time, and my dad didn't give her $1 to buy food or cab fare. An officer saw her in distress, and he gave her what she needed. So that's a humanitarian story right there. The problem with me is the things that I've had to endure with cops at 16, being tossed and thrown into a police car because I lost my train pass, and trying to find a cop in the cell, we couldn't find one. So I went through the door to talk to the people behind the, what you call token booth. And she's like, well, go ahead, do whatever you think is right. Before I know it, 5 cops dragged my tail up the stairs, threw me in a car, and took me to the precinct. 16 years old. So stains and scars are hard to heal. And so the other thing is, I was taught to believe that all cops, they're all full of shit. They don't care about the community. When they put respect, courtesy, and what's the other piece on the car, it's all bullshit. It's not telling the truth. You go to these president council meetings that she was talking about, and they tell you that, well, you know, we want NCOs in the neighborhood because they want to break bread and get to know the people, and the cops should live in the neighborhood that they working for. All this kind of BS I'm hearing. And I say to myself, anybody that goes to work every day, it doesn't matter whether you break in bed, just do your job. You see where I'm going with this? I don't need a cop to shake my hand, break bread with me, tell me, oh, he's a neighborhood cop, he saw my children grow up and all this. I don't need none of that. Just go out there and do your job. That's all we want. We don't want to make love to the officers on the beat.
But that thing you need to say to that woman over there in her meeting, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's because you're not going to get nowhere with us with that.
Oh, no. I just wanted to bring it out there because I know how them
But
cops.
do you have a
I
question?
know about them president councils.
Do you have a question?
Pathetic. But bottom line, I respect you. The brother here, you know what I'm saying? My prayers, if this thing is straight up legit, my prayers go out to you because, like you said, when you really believe in something, you know God got your back.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Question?
Thank you. Oh, hold on, let me get the mic. Thank you.
I'm concerned about the homeless that are being targeted and the mentally ill. Like I went on jury duty, in most of the cases that the cops were bringing in were people with mental illnesses.
Well, I'm glad
and it was a concern to me.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up about jury duty, because when you're on there, make sure if you go on the grand jury, you ask to see all the evidence. And if you don't feel right about it, don't let that prosecutor push you into giving a verdict and bringing back a true bill, which means indicting that person. Make sure you see all the evidence. Make sure you feel and you leave that room correctly. That's something we all take we take for granted. Use your right, which is one of the greatest privileges we have, and that's to be a jury of our peers. Sixth Amendment. A lot of people go, oh, I got jury duty, screw this. I'm gonna tell them I got my period. Or I'm gonna tell them I'm sick. Or I got 3 kids at home. No, because you never know when it's gonna be your brother, your mother, your sister, your son. Get up there. Do not let these people manipulate you. Judge fairly. Listen to the case. Write down notes. You'll see the lies. And judge and help. I've had 120 cases in the past 7 years. I'm not a lawyer, but I won every single case. You know how I won it? Because I take the evidence and I jam it down the DA's throat. In Manhattan, in the Bronx, in Queens, upstate, Albany, Rochester, I go all over. And you want to know something? I make them say dismissed. Okay?
And to address the homeless situation, the reason is, back in Giuliani's time, a lot of the homeless shelters for the mentally ill were shut down. And when they shut them down, what happened? They all got arrested and sent them to Rikers Island. Once that happened, you had like an uptick in violence. Most of the violence was coming from the mentally ill. Now that they're closing down Rikers and different facilities, they're releasing all these homeless people. Now you see them all 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. You see them in 149th Street between Morris Avenue to Bergen Avenue in the Bronx. The precinct that I patrol. And a lot of them that are violent have a lot of mental illness. What needs to do, more funding, more education, more shelters for them to be placed there so they could get the help that they need. Unfortunately, the city's not doling out that money to help them.
You know, and that's something I want to say. People say in this movie, you see Pedro Hernandez, right? But there's something that they don't tell you in this movie. In the beginning of the film, you see Pedro Hernandez in the street, right? And you see him. He has no glasses. But while he's coming out, he has glasses. You know why he wears glasses? Because he got maced in Rikers Island, and he was prevented to wash his eyes for 17 hours. So now he lost 35% of his vision. And on the bottle of mace, and he can tell you, Ritchie, every bottle of mace that's issued to the police officers or Department of Corrections says wash out immediately or will cause blindness. Cause blindness. They took 35% of his vision. The kid was innocent. This shouldn't happen to people. Rikers Island is not the problem. Because if you shut down Rikers Island, you shut down buildings and an island. But you take all the problem, the corrupt people, and you move them to this location. So all you did was move the problem from here to here. And that's the problem. We need to have a system of oversight. That's the whole point of my bill. So we could put a stop to this. So that no prosecutors above the law, so that no lawyers above the law, so that no police officers above the law, so that no Department of Corrections officers above the law, and neither no FBI or U.S. attorney. Because now I wrote a federal bill to put those guys in check, okay? And this is the problem. It's not the buildings, it's not the island, it's the system, okay? It's the system, and we need to get involved, and I hope you people do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much to Ritchie Baez and Manuel Gomez, detective, and Manhattan Neighborhood Network. We are very happy that we were able to bring the film in our film club. And for this group of citizens who are here, thank you for coming to see the film and for your question, your concern, and whether we agree or disagree with some part of the film or some of the things that have been said here, think about it and investigate. Because sometimes what happens is if you are in an environment where you for 20 years it has been red, you don't want to believe that it's blue or vice versa. Because we have to be open-minded. And in every occasion is the system. Okay, we have a structural system here of racism, right? So it's the structural system. That's what we have to start looking at from the grassroots, from the root of the causes, which is important. Thank you very much. I am Zenaida Mendez, and we are here to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.